welcome back. So we were discussing ancient Indian history, which has got totally 8 chapters. So the first chapter we have started with prehistoric cultures, followed by Indus Valley, followed by Vedic civilization. Now the 4th chapter, that is pre-Mauryan age. In pre-Mauryan age, the span of pre-Mauryan age 600 BC to 400 BC, the history of 200 years. You have to focus on pre-Mauryan age and what are the topics annappudu. So manaku only 2 major topics unnai. Observe cheyali. 2 major topics unnai, political conditions and religious conditions. Well, political conditions lo bhanga, in fact, Mahajanapadas, Shodasha Mahajanapadas, out of 16 kingdoms, one kingdom called that is Magadha emerged as empire. So Magadha Samraja Avirbhavan gala karanalu antu some of the patent questions we generally get in mains. So factors for the rise of Magadhan empire antam, like just go through general factors, right? So once you're done with, we have foreign invasions. In fact, if foreign invasions lo bhanga, focus must be on Persian invasions and Greek invasions. Mali focus annappudu manaku focus must be on consequences. What are the consequences of Persian invasions? What was the impact of Persian invasions on Indian culture? What is the impact of Greek invasions on Indian culture? These 2 areas మీద focus చేయండి. So repeat, political conditions lo bhanga, only 2 subtopics. First one is Mahajanapadas, second one is foreign invasions. Then the second topic, religious conditions. Well, religious conditions lo bhanga, so we have at least for about half a dozen philosophies which emerged as religions and all. One among them was Jainism, followed by Buddhism, followed by Ajivika religion, Charvaka religion, followed by even Shad Darshanas antam, right? 6 philosophical thoughts born and brought up in later Vedic period. Compared with political conditions, focus must be on religious conditions, because maximum questions we found from philosophies, religions. Right? So be good at what were the doctrines, basic doctrines. What were the doctrines of the respective religions, and what are the fundamental differences between Jainism and Buddhism? In which areas Jainism differs? In which areas Jainism and Buddhism differs, and followed by Ajivika religion and Charvaka religion. Now start with keywords. Ante ee areas meeda focus cheyali and ee key words meeda get command over. To begin with, Tirthankar or Tirthankaras, followed by Anekantavada, right? Salekhana, Gomateshwar or Bahubali, Shravana Belagola, right? Shravana Belagola. Can anyone know what is the significance of Shravana Belagola as far as Jainism is concerned? Bahubali, the beginning and the conclusion. What is the significance of Shravana Belagola as far as Jainism is concerned? Acha, holy place. Okay. Okay, avanni pakkana pedte, the significance of Shravana Belagola is the birthplace of Digambara sect of Jainism. Mottam sodi mottam cheppoddu annamata. What is the significance of Digambara? What is the significance of Shravana Belagola annappudu? It's a birthplace of Digambara sect. And what's the birthplace of Shvetambara sect? Birthplace of Shvetambara sect. We have 2 sects in Jainism, right? Shvetambaras and Digambaras. Now Shravana Belagola, the birthplace of Digambara sect of Jainism. Fantastic. Then what is the birthplace of Shvetambara sect? Children, Magadha. దాంట్లో ఏదో ఒకటి ఉంటుంది కదా, క్యాపిటల్ ఏదో ఉంటుంది కదా, పాటలీపుత్ర. అంటే మేము మొత్తం చెప్తాం సార్, నువ్వు దాంట్లో ఒకటి ఎత్తుకొని చెప్పుకోవాలన్నమాట. మొత్తం మేమే చెప్తున్నావు, బతుకమ్మ ఆడతావు సార్. ఓకే, మామూలు తెలివితేటలు కాదు రే. చలో, Gomateshwar or Bahubali or Shravana Belagala. I repeat, Shravana Belagala happened to be the birthplace of the Digambara sect of Jainism. When it comes to Patliputra, the birthplace of Shvetambara sect of Jainism. What's the birthplace of Buddhism? Right? Saranath. Saranath is the birthplace of Buddhism. Right? Now start with one more, Mahavratas and Anuvratas. Mahavratas and Anuvratas. Followed by Bodhisattvas, Nirvana, Bhumi Sparsha Mudra, one of the patent areas for competitive exams. Bhumi Sparsha Mudra, touching the earth, Ashtanga Marga, and Mahajanapadas. So మనం ఇందాక రెఫర్ చేసాం, there are two topics to be focused as part of age of Mahajanapadas, pre-Mauryan age. So the span of pre-Mauryan age 600 BC to 400 BC, the history of 200 years. The first topic political conditions, the second topic religious conditions. Mali first topic lo bhanga age of Mahajanapadas. In fact, chala traditional question right now, very traditional question we found. Match the following: on one hand names of the kingdoms, on the other hand names of the capitals, right? Once again, you need not to remember each and every kingdom's capital and all, like chala extremely prosperous kingdoms evitunayo, like strategical kingdoms evitunayo, what be the focus cheyandi. Take an example of Magadha. Everyone knows what is the capital of Magadha. In fact, Magadhan kingdom had 3 capitals, right? Everyone knows. So Magadha capital మీద focus cheyandi, followed by Gandhara, Kamboja, because these are the 2 Mahajanapadas of 6th century BC belonged to northwestern India, and they were never part and parcel of Magadhan Empire until the arrival of Mauryans. For example, to make you understand, say Magadhan kingdom was ruled by a group of dynasties, right? Can anyone what were they? Chepnan. Haryanka dynasty, good, followed by Shishunaga dynasty, followed by Nanda dynasty, right? And Mauryans, little later Shungas and Kanvas. Little later. Now come to neither Haryankas, nor Shishunagas, nor Nandas, they occupied Kamboja and Gandhara, because they were part and parcel of foreign territories. Gandhara and Kamboja were occupied by Persians for at least 3 to 4 decades. They were in the control of Persians. Little later they were under control of Greeks. So obviously we have to focus on Kamboja and Gandhara. So Magadha, Kamboja and Gandhara, and another area you can be focus, that is Asaka, otherwise called as Asmaka. What is the significance of Asmaka or Asaka Mahajanapada? Yes, the only kingdom which is located in Deccan and South India happened to be Asmaka or Asaka kingdom. మన రెఫరెన్స్ వచ్చేసి మనకు we found the reference of Shodasha Mahajanapadas. Show 6, Dasha 10, 16 larger kingdoms. Shodasha Mahajanapadalo antam Telugulo. So 16 larger kingdoms. The reference of 16 larger kingdoms we found in a Pali Buddhist text called Anguttara Nikaya and Mahavastu, another Buddhist text, followed by Bhagavata Sutras. One of the components of Smriti literature, to be specific, what we call say Puranas lo bhanga manaku Bhagavata Sutras unnai. So Buddhist text and Sanskrit text, they give the references of the respective books, give references of Shodasha Mahajanapadas. Besides, another area where you have to focus, out of 16 kingdoms, maximum kingdoms belonged to monarchical category, very few kingdoms belonged to, or few states belonged to republican category. And be good at what is the difference between monarchies and republic. So out of 16 kingdoms, can anyone, what are the Mahajanapadas which belong to republican category out of 16 kingdoms? Chepna. Vajji and Malla. వజ్జి అండ్ మల్లా, వజ్జి కింగ్డమ్, ఇట్స్ అన్ వజ్జిని మనము అష్టకులిక అంటాం. అర్థం చేసుకోవాలి. అష్ట, 8, కులిక, రిపబ్లికన్ స్టేట్, సంస్కృత్ term. So Vajji consisted of 8 republican states. Besides Vajji, whose capital was Vaishali, and even Malla kingdom also republican category. I repeat, out of 16 kingdoms, only 2 Janapadas, or out of 16 Mahajanapadas, only 2 Janapadas belonged to republican. The remaining all belonged to monarchies. As I was telling, odd one out. 3 monarchies, 1 from republic. అదేంటి సార్, అన్ని మహాజనపదాస్ ఇచ్చి ఆడ్ వన్ అవుట్ అని చెప్పాడు, క్వశ్చన్ తప్పిగిచ్చాడు, సుప్రీంకోర్టు పోతా మా మామ ఉన్నాడు, వాళ్ళు గేట్లకు కూడా రానివ్వరు అన్నట్టు. ఏదన్నా స్టేట్ పబ్లిక్ సర్వీస్ కమిషన్ అనుకున్నా ప్రతిదానికి ఆపండ్రా అని చెప్పడానికి. తెలుగు సినిమాలో తాళి కడితేప్పుడు ఒక డైలాగ్ చెప్తారు అనమాట, ఆపండ్రా అని చెప్తాడు. ఏమైందిరా, నేను తాళి పట్టుకొని కూర్చుంటాడు నా. అది ఇక్కడ నడుస్తుంది. నో, యూపీఎస్సీ నెవర్ గివ్స్ అ ఛాన్స్ ఫర్ సుప్రీంకోర్టు. రెండిట్లో ఒకటి పట్టుకోమని చెప్తుంది. ఆ రెండు లేవు కదా సార్, అట్టనే ఉంటుంది. దట్స్ అ యూపీఎస్సీ. నో వన్ హ్యాస్ డేర్ టు గో టు ది కోర్ట్స్. బంబార్డ్ చేస్తుంది అనమాట. ఇన్ ద వెరీ ఫస్ట్ ఇన్స్టాన్స్ యూపీఎస్సీ నెవర్ గివ్ ఛాన్స్. అయిపోయింది రైట్. So we have to, what we call say, make efforts to reach UPSC standards. Go through previous year question papers, understand them. ఈ keywords ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో, వాటి మీద ఫోకస్ చేయండి. రైట్. సో Vajji kingdom has got a capital called Vaishali. When it comes to Malla kingdom has got 2 capitals. Can you know what were they? ఆల్రెడీ ఒకటి ఉంది ఇక్కడ, కుషీనగర్. వన్ మోర్, Panipuri, Pavapuri. What is the significance of Kushinagar? Very good. Death place of Kushinagar, death place of Gautam Buddha. Pavapuri, death place of Mahavira. Comparative study. While you're reading Buddhism, you can make it as, okay, Siddhartha Gautama was born at Lumbini, not Lumbini Park, Hyderabad, Nepal, right? So died at a place called Kushinagar. So ikkada meer already chadivitaru. Okay, Kushinagar is a capital, one of the capitals of Malla. Then adu called, right? See, questions can be framed, right? So out of 16 kingdoms are Mahajanapadas, 14 kingdoms belong to monarchy category, and out of 14 kingdoms, the most powerful kingdom happened to be Magadha, which over a period of time emerged as Samrajya, empire, and the remaining happened to be Vajji and Malla, they belong to republic category. And one more thing you shall keep in mind, we found maximum philosophers were coming from republican states. Philosophers I'm talking about. Your Rishabhnath, Parshvanath, Vardhaman Mahavir, Siddhartha Gautama, Makari Gosala. All these philosophers have come from రిపబ్లికన్ కేటగిరీ. అది వజ్జి కానివ్వండి, 8 రిపబ్లికన్ స్టేట్స్, మల్లా కానివ్వండి. బికాస్ ఇన్ రిపబ్లికన్ స్టేట్స్ యూ ఫైండ్ లిబర్టీస్. ఇన్ రిపబ్లికన్ స్టేట్స్ యూ ఫైండ్ ఫ్రీడమ్ ఆఫ్ ఎక్స్ప్రెషన్. ఆర్టికల్ 19 యూట్యూబ్ పెట్టి మరి తిట్టొచ్చు అన్నట్టు. అదే మొనార్కీస్లో యూట్యూబ్ ఓనర్ని తిట్టినోని ఇద్దరిని, ఓన్లీ వన్స్. దట్స్ అరోమా ఆఫ్ monarchies, monarchical kingdoms. So when talking about new philosophies, new religions, philosophies require debates and discussions. But debates and discussion jaragali ante you have to express your views, you have to express your opinions. Our opinions ekkada express chesaru annappudu republican states. When I say the statement, like the say philosophers have come from republican states, you have to put question mark. Why only from republican states? Why can't from monarchies? All philosophers have come from republican states. In fact, all religions born and brought up in republican states and gradually had spread to monarchies and all. So as I was telling, like out of 16 kingdoms, one kingdom called Magadhan kingdom, which emerged over a period of time as Magadhan empire, was ruled by various ambitious dynasties. One among them was Haryankas, Shishunagas, Nandas, Mauryans and Shungas and Kanvas. So Haryankas, Shishunagas, Nandas, we generally discuss under the tag called pre-Mauryan age. When it comes to Mauryans, under the tag called Mauryan age. Shungas and Kanvas under the tag called post-Mauryan age. Political history, I would say, not that much important, but the focus must be on three components. Name of the founder. కొన్ని సార్లు మనకు క్వశ్చన్స్ ఫ్రేమ్ చేశారు. when it comes to స్టేట్ పబ్లిక్ సర్వీస్ కమిషన్ ఈ ప్రొఫార్మా వర్కౌట్ అవుతుంది. ఫౌండర్, గ్రేట్ కింగ్ ఆర్ గ్రేట్ రూలర్ followed by the last ruler or last king. When it comes to take an example of Haryankas, the first dynasty to be ruled over Magadhan territories. మనకు హార్యాంకాస్లో భాగంగా the great rulers happen to be say Bimbi Sara, modern Kalyan Ram, and Ajata Shatru. That's it. Well, Bimbi Sara, one or two facts and a title sent, right? What kind of strategies followed by the gentleman to expand the territories? Followed by Ajata Shatru. This Babu introduced very noble tradition in India. Right? Patricider. The first patricider in India happened to be Ajatashatru. Killing the father, the one who kills his own father, her own father, he or she be called as patricider. మన తెలుగులో ముద్దుగా పితృహంతకుడు అంటాం. నేను ఎప్పుడు చూసినా నువ్వే చీఫ్ మినిస్టర్, నాకు ఇవ్వవా? Patricider. Then how about the one who kills his own brother, her own brother, his own sister, her own sister? What do we call them? Children, patricider is the one who kills his own father or her own father. Patri. Children, గట్టి చెప్పరాదు? ఫ్యాక్టరీ సైడర్. మ్యాచ్ చూస్తున్నాము, చెల్లె వచ్చి ఎప్పుడు చూసినా మ్యాచేనా, నేను డాక్టర్ బాబు పెళ్ళిళ్ళు కిచెన్లోకి వెళ్ళాం తీసుకోండి, ప్రశాంతంగా మ్యాచ్ చూసుకుంటే కూర్చోవచ్చు అనమాట. కొత్త ఐడియాలు ఏమో మాకు సార్ జనరల్ చెప్తున్నాను అనమాట. ఫ్యాక్టరీ సైడర్. సిబ్లింగ్స్. when you go to the such extent అన్నప్పుడు, when you receive the syndrome called power, ఆ పవర్ అనే సిండ్రోమ్ వచ్చినప్పుడు సొంత చెల్లెల్ని కూడా గెట్ అవుట్ ఫ్రమ్ ది క్లాస్ అని చెప్తాం అనమాట. సమజ్దార్ కి ఇషారా కాఫీ. ఓకే, సో Haryanka dynasty followed by we have Shishunaga dynasty. Shishunaga dynasty we have so we have when it comes to Ajatashatru, you can focus on the gentleman. He was responsible for organizing first Buddhist council, right? Totally we have 4 Buddhist councils. Keeping aside political history, ఒక ఐడియా పెట్టుకోండి. బట్ అంటే what kind of contributions made by the respective rulers are important. We have 4 Buddhist councils. The first Buddhist council organized by Ajatashatru. The second Buddhist council organized by, can anyone? Kala Shoka, one of the rulers of Shishunaga dynasty. And Shishunaga dynasty was replaced by Nanda dynasty. Now come to Nandas. What is the significance of Nandas? Children? Yes, the first non-Kshatriya dynasty, otherwise called as the first Shudra dynasty to be ruled over Indian territories. Focused. Because in Chaturvana system, Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras, Kshatriyas shall be the masters. Kshatriyas have the sole responsibility to rule. Now keeping aside this traditional set, Shudras became the drivers, the protectors. So the significance of Nandas, the first non-Kshatriya dynasty or the first Shudra dynasty. Now how did they become rulers? Annappudu, any wild guess? Any wild guess? How Shudras became the rulers of Indian territories? Any wild guess? కొంచెం గట్టి చెప్పాలి. Very good. The impact of heterodox religions, or the impact of Jainism, Buddhism and other religions. Jainism, Buddhism never emphasize over Chaturvarna system. It does not mean they dismantle Chaturvarna system. Chaturvarna system ఉంటే ఉంది, పక్కకి వెళ్ళి ఆడుకోమని చెప్పారు అనమాట. Jainism, Buddhism, we generally use a term called heterodox religions. Heterodox religions outrightly rejected the Brahmanical institutions, and one of the Brahmanical institutions happened to be Chaturvarna system. The officers were given, the resignations, the officers were given not on the basis of caste, but on the basis of talent, caliber, outcome. Shudras rose to the power. The best example, Nandas. Mahapadmananda was Jain. He was a Shudra by caste, but Jain by faith. Then you can pose with what was the fates of Sheshunagas followed by Harankas right from the days of Ajatashatru. Ajatashatru was a Buddhist. In fact, earlier he was associated with Vedic religion. That is another story. Right from the days of Ajatashatru, like we found Jainism, Buddhism and all. Right? Now, Sheshunagas, they were also associated with Jainism. Right? So what I'm trying to tell you, heterodox religions never popularize Brahmanical institutions, and caste is one of the Brahmanical institutions. Outcome, Shudras were reaching to the celestial heights. So Nanda dynasty, the focus must be on Mahapadmananda. Mahapadmananda మీద కొంచెం focus చేయండి. Reason being, it was the gentleman who occupied, say, the only kingdom which is located in South and Deccan. What's the name of the kingdom? Asmaka. Asmaka or Asaka, that is modern Bodh and Telangana state. Followed by, we have Dhanananda. And Dhanananda was killed by his own, not his own, Dhanananda was killed by Chandragupta Maurya with the help of Kautilya, Chanakya Shabad, everyone knows that. This is how Nanda dynasty was replaced by Mauryan dynasty. So Mauryas, I'll be going to speak as part of Mauryan age, followed by Shungas and Kanvas as part of post-Mauryan age. What I'm trying to tell you, political history of glance pettukondi. And we found one of the patent questions in competitive exams, arranged in chronological way, the dynasties which ruled over Magadhan Empire. The same we found as part of Delhi Sultanate. So elagithe Magadhan Empire was ruled by respective dynasties, Haryankas, Sheshunagas, Nandas, Mauryas, Shungas, Kanvas. Now Delhi Sultanate was ruled by a group of dynasties. Can anyone? Chemnan? Slave dynasty? అంటే ఫస్ట్ నేను చెప్పినా కదా సార్, సెకండ్ నువ్వు చెప్పరాదు. ఖిల్జీ dynasty, Abhiram, Tughlaqs, followed by Sayyids and Lodis. అంటే ఇది చదువుతున్నప్పుడు ఇంకా ఏమన్నా ఉన్నాయా? ఉంటాయి, బరాబర్ ఉంటాయి, అవి చదవాలన్నమాట, రివైజ్ చేసుకోవాలి. Apply the same towards Vijayanagara Empire. Apply the same towards Vijayanagara Empire. Vijayanagara Empire was ruled by a group of dynasties, right? Can anyone, what were they? Yes, Sangama, Saluva, Tuluva and Aravati. Tuluva dynasty, to which Sri Krishna Devaraya belonged to? Modern Balaya Babu. There is no historical character which is untouched by Balaya Babu. Jai Balaya. Shatavana touch చేశాడు, గౌతమిపుత్ర శాతకర్ణి. Sri Krishna Devaraya touched, already touched. Do watch a movie called Aditya 369. Not now, after prelims exam. మా ఇస్త్రీ సార్ సినిమాలు చూడమని చెప్తున్నాడు, ఇవే తగ్గించుకోమని చెప్పేది అన్నమాట. విఎఫ్ఎక్స్ లేని కాలంలోనే బాలయ్య బాబు వెంట్ టు డిఫరెంట్ ఏజెస్, రైట్? అటు వెనక్కి వెళ్ళాడు, ఇటు ముందుకెళ్ళాడు. నీ రొటపీస్ కల్కి ఏం పనికిరాదు అనమాట. విఎఫ్ఎక్స్ లేని కాలంలోనే టైం మిషన్తో మళ్ళీ వెళ్ళి వచ్చాడు అనమాట. ఇంకా మార్క్స్ తెలియదు ఆయనకు, లేకుంటే అది అక్కడ కూడా వెళ్ళి వచ్చాడు. Right. So, right, it's all about political history. Now, religious conditions of pre-Mauryan age, that is 600 BC to 400 BC. For about 200 years, we found at least a dozen philosophies. Out of a dozen philosophies, for about half a dozen philosophies emerged as religions or organized religions. When it comes to Jainism, of all existing religions of 6th century BC, or whatever religions which born and brought up in 6th century BC, the oldest religion happened to be Jainism. And according to Jain tradition, we found 24 Tirthankars. As you know, was the first Tirthankar? Rishabhanath, otherwise called as Adinath. 22nd Tirthankar? 22nd Tirthankar, Nemi Natha. 23rd Tirthankar, Parshvanatha. And 24th Tirthankar, Mahavira or Vardhamana Mahavira. That's it. In fact, Rishabnath and Parshvanath వీళ్ళిద్దరి మీద ఫోకస్ చేయాలి because we found questions. Rishabnath happened to be the traditional founder of Jainism. One of the previous questions. Traditional founder. Then how about Parshvanath annappudu historical founder. Rishabnath happened to be traditional founder. Parshvanath happened to be historical founder. Now, keeping aside Rishabnath followed by Neminatha, the historical personalities happen to be Parshvanath and Vardhaman Mahavir. And it was Parshvanath, who started a sect called Nigrandhas, a philosophical sect called Nigrandhas. See, మీరు అబ్జర్వ్ చేసినట్లయితే ఈ ఫిలాసఫర్స్ ఎవరైతే ఉన్నారో అది రిషబ్నాథ్ కానివ్వండి, పార్శ్వనాథ్ కానివ్వండి, ఈవెన్ వర్ధమాన్ మహావీర్, ఈవెన్ గౌతమ బుద్ధ, సిద్ధార్థ గౌతమ, పాపులర్లీ కాల్డ్ యాస్ గౌతమ బుద్ధ, సేమ్ ప్రొఫార్మా ఉంటుంది. They enjoyed the life of pleasures at the age of 28, 29, 30, whatever ages you talk about, and they got fed up with the so-called the holy life, and they went to forest and they attained salvation according to traditional, not salvation, knowledge, supreme knowledge according to the respect to religious texts. And they came up with philosophies. To begin with Parshvanath, he started what we call new philosophical sect called Nigrandhas, which stands on 4 principles. What were they? Chaptana. Asatya followed by Asateya followed by Aparigriha, and finally Ahimsa, Asatya, Asateya, and finally Aparigriha. So Ahimsa, non-violence, everyone knows, right? Ahimsa, non-violence. Asatya, non-lying. Asateya, non-stealing. And Aparigraha, non-accumulation of wealth. Starbuck and Supply, these principles belong to 6th century BC, not us. కొంతమంది చూస్తున్నారు అంటే సంపద కూడబెట్టకూడదా సార్, ఇక్కడికి వచ్చినది ఒక సైన్ చేస్తే ₹1,00,000 ఇస్తారంట కదా సార్, ఎవరి క్యాల్కులేషన్స్ అలాకున్నాయి, అవన్నీ పక్కన పెట్టాను. సో అహింస, అసత్య, అసతేయ అండ్ అపరిగ్రహ. The one who believes in 4 principles, the one who follows Parshvanath, he or she be called as Nigrandhas, and Nigrandhas shall follow 4 principles. Now the question is, what was the path prescribed by Parshvanath, 23rd Tirthankar, for salvation annappudu? He prescribed the path called Bhakti. Kani ఈయన తర్వాత వచ్చినటువంటి వర్ధమాన మహావీరుడు ఎవడుతున్నారో, సో హీ యాడెడ్ ద 5th principle to existing 4th principle. What are the 5th principle? Brahmacharya, otherwise called as asceticism, celibacy antam. So ahimsa, asatya, asateya, aparigraha of 23rd Tirthankar. When it comes to Brahmacharya, 24th Tirthankar. Now it was 24th Tirthankar who reorganized the existing system, that is the philosophical system, and it was he who renamed it as Jina, because one of the titles of Vardhaman Mahavira happened to be Jina, and over a period of time his followers were called as Jinas, or a period of time Jainism. Now the actual story starts here. When I say Parshvanath prescribed a path called Bhakti for salvation, then how about Vardhaman Mahavira annappudu? Can anyone, what is the path prescribed by Vardhaman Mahavira for salvation? Sallekhana. Vardhaman Mahavir, Sallekhana. What does it mean by Sallekhana? Starving to death. Extreme starvation to death. అంటే మీ శరీరాన్ని కృషింపజేసి నశింపజేసి మరణించడమే సల్లేఖన అంటాం. ఈ టార్చరింగ్ ఏంటి సార్? कुछ पाने के लिए बहुत कुछ खोना पड़ता है, सीधी सी बात है ना. उट्टी से एरबू का पाइना एम्बुलेंस का दो, बहुत कुछ खोना पड़ता है. If you want to get salvation, if you want to get like the moksha, you have to torture your senses. అర్థం చేసుకోవాలి. టార్చరింగ్ ఆన్ సెన్సెస్ ఈ కాన్సెప్ట్ చుట్టూ మనకు జైనం తిరుగుతుంటుంది. It was not the case of 23rd Tirthankar. 24th Tirthankar says you have to torture your senses. Now, as I was telling, he reorganized the existing system, and whatever the philosophies, whatever the principles which are associated with before him, so the entire principles were already divided into two categories, that is Pancha Sutras, 5 principles. When I say 5 principles, 4 principles of 23rd Tirthankar, the 5th principle of 24th Tirthankar. Pancha Sutras. And besides Pancha Sutras, we have three Ratnas. So organized way lo raskoవాలి. There shouldn't be any kind of confusion. It was 24th Tirthankar who reorganized the existing system. Right? On one hand, Pancha Sutras. On the other hand, 3 Ratnas. Pancha Sutras annappudu 4 principles plus 1. Right? Now come to 3 Ratnas. What are the 3 Ratnas? ఏదో కేఎఫ్సి పెట్టావు కదా సార్? అవునన్నా. నాలెడ్జ్, ఫెయిత్ అండ్ కండక్ట్, యాక్షన్. సమ్యక్ జ్ఞాన, సమ్యక్ విశ్వాస్, సమ్యక్ క్రియా. రైట్ నాలెడ్జ్, రైట్ ఫెయిత్, రైట్ కండక్ట్. ఏంటి రైట్ నాలెడ్జ్, సమ్యక్ జ్ఞాన అన్నప్పుడు యూ హ్యావ్ టు నో అబౌట్ బుద్ధిజం. Knowing about Buddhism is nothing but right knowledge. Then how about Samyak Vishwas, having faith in Buddhism? Vishwas. Then how about action, conduct, whatever you do, that should be towards Buddhism. 3 Ratnas. That's it. Now, మనం ఇందాక రెఫర్ చేశాం, that is like, for salvation he prescribed the path called starvation to death or extreme starvation to death. Besides reorganizing or adding Pancha Sutras and 3 Ratnas, he also focused on Anekantavada. Anekantavada. Can you know what is this Anekantavada philosophy? Children? Okay. Anekantavada. Children, universal soul. The entire universe revolves around soul. Let me tell you, Jainism stands on universal soul concept. Jainism says, especially Vardhaman Mahavira says, every object has a soul. Every object has got soul. Right? Thereby, you shall not harm, you shall not destroy object. That means like soul. If someone asks a question, according to Jainism, the marker has soul, the answer is yes. మనం పని చేసి రాయకుండా ఒక కూర్చోరండి. ఈ ఎక్సెసివ్ సెంట్రిక్ సోల్ కాన్సెప్ట్ ఏదైతుందో విచ్ డిఫర్స్ బిట్వీన్ జైనిజం అండ్ బుద్ధిజం. Buddha, very clever, pragmatic philosopher we call Buddha, Gautam Buddha, he understood there are 2 extreme ends. What are the 2 extreme ends annappudu? That is Vedic religion, one of the extreme ends, karma marga, rituals and sacrifices, expensive rituals, elaborate rituals, like even extensive rituals. Now another end, Sallekhana. సార్ అక్కడ ఆగమాగం చేస్తున్నంటే నువ్వు ఏం తినకు చచ్చిపో అని చెప్తావు, ఇదేం సార్? నాకు ప్రతి హాఫ్ అన్ అవర్కి వరేజ్ భూ ఆకలి అయితే తినకు అని చెప్తావు, చచ్చిపోవాలిగా చెప్పేది. వాట్ ద రెస్పాన్స్ ఆఫ్ బుద్ధ? బుద్ధ కేమ్ అప్ విత్ మిడిల్ పాత్. పీపుల్ రష్ టువర్డ్స్ మిడిల్ పాత్. కట్ చేస్తే బౌద్ధము మామూలుగా లేదన్నమాట. బికాస్ బుద్ధ వాజ్ ఏ ప్రాగ్మాటిక్ ఫిలాసఫర్. So what we have to learn from history, we must follow Madhya Marga. We must not follow either ends, extreme ends. Right? Especially like when we're preparing for civil services, you must be very diplomatic. Though you may have extreme ideas, radical ideas, you may belong to one religion, you may belong to one region, you may belong to one gender. ఇవన్నీ అంటే మీ ఐడియాస్ ఏవైతున్నాయి, ఐడియాలజీస్ ఏవైతున్నాయి, జెండర్ ఏవైతున్నాయో, రీజన్ ఏదో రీజన్ అన్నీ కూడా కొన్ని సంవత్సరాలు పాకెట్లో పెట్టుకోండి, జిప్పేసేయండి. మళ్ళీ ఏం చేయాలి సార్? ఫాలో మిడిల్ పాత్, మధ్య మార్గ, ద పాత్ ఆఫ్ డిప్లొమసీ. Because UPSC invites the people of path of diplomacy, not తీయండ్రా బండి. నో, ఆల్రెడీ అందరు బండ్లు తీస్తున్నారు అనమాట. మళ్ళీ మీరు పెద్ద బండ్లు అవసరం లేదు. సో వీ మస్ట్ ఫాలో ద పాత్ ఆఫ్ డిప్లొమసీ. దట్స్ వాట్ బుద్ధ టాటర్స్. మధ్య మార్గ అంటాం. సో అనేకాంతవాద అంటాం. బిసైడ్స్ అనేకాంతవాద, ఈవెన్ మహావీర ఆల్సో కేమ్ అప్ విత్ షద్వాద. షద్వాద అంటాం. సో ఈ ఫిలాసఫీస్, రెస్పెక్టివ్ ఫిలాసఫర్స్ యొక్క ఫిలాసఫీస్ ఏవుతున్నాయో వాటి మీద ఫోకస్ చేయండి. Now when it comes to schism in Jainism, right? Can anyone, what is the name of the book which talks about schism in Jainism? What is the name of the book which talks about schism? What is meant by schism? Schism का मतलब क्या होता है? ఏదైనా చెప్పారా? Yes. If a split occurs in a religion, we call it schism. Division. అంటే ఒక ఫిలాసఫీలో డివిజన్ రావడం జరిగింది, ఒక మతంలో డివిజన్ రావడం జరిగింది. మళ్ళీ ఆ ఫినామినన్ ఏమంటామంటే స్కీజం అంటాం. If a split occurs in a religion, we call it schism. Let me tell you, there is no religion which is free from schism. Every religion has schism. What are the two major sects in Jainism? Shvetambaras and Digambaras. I was asking the question, what is the name of the big book? Obviously, which is written by the Jain scholar, the Sanskrit scholar, and which talks about schism in Jainism. Ante aa episode manam aa book nunchi teesukodam jarigindi. I happened to previous question. What's the name of the book? Cheptana koncha gattiga. Parishishta Parvan, which was written by Hema Chandra, lived in 12th century Sanskrit scholar, Jain scholar in fact. Parishishta Parvan, which was written by Hema Chandra, the Sanskrit scholar. Hema Chandra, the Sanskrit scholar, in 12th century AD. Right? The book says, in fact, you're quite aware of this episode. The book says it was in 3rd century AD. Prati point రాసుకోవాల్సిన అవసరం లేదు. Schism, Shvetambaras, Digambaras, Parishishta Parvan. That's it. Right? Now the book says it was in 3rd century AD. Patliputra experienced a massive famine. The Jain, what we call say monks, suggested Chandragupta Maurya shall vacate the Patliputra. Don't ask the question, because whenever we narrate traditional what we call episodes, you suppose not ask the question. Enduku sir, naaku kuda answer teliyadu anamata. Katha eltunte mellaga elalalamata. Enduku annappudu naaku ellinappudu nenu meekem cheptanu. That's the aroma of religious stories. మరి ఏం చేయాలి సార్? వావ్, ఫెంటాస్టిక్, బ్రిలియంట్, మెల్లగా చెప్పుకుంటూ ఉండాలి మనం. The same episode which you might have learnt as part of Rashtrakutas. There was a great ruler in Rashtrakutas by name Amogavarsha. Right? Amogavarsha, Kaviraja, the king among the poets. Right? అంటే మీరు కనెక్ట్ చేసుకోవాలి ఎపిసోడ్స్. Right? The book says, Parishishta Parvan says, when Patliputra experienced the great famine in 3rd century BC, Jain monks instructed, a ruler shall leave, the ruler shall vacate the region. Right? When ruler vacates the region, situation would become normal. Right? What is the response of ruler? Ruler along, that is like Chandragupta Maurya, along with Jain monks and other people. So these gentlemen went to Deccan, and they got settled at a place called Shravana Belagola. So the Jains who had been to South India, to a place called Shravana Belagola, they went to South India under the guidance of Bhadrabahu. Then you can pose the question, situation bhagendra sir? Bhagendra. Religious text. Apply the same towards Rashtrakutas, Amogavarsha. So Amogavarsha was ruling over Deccan in early medieval age. Ellora as a capital, Manya Khet, all these territories. Right? Same, even Deccan also experienced famine under his guidance when he was ruler. The Jain monks suggested the ruler shall sacrifice his fingers, to be specific, thumb, to goddess Mahalakshmi of Kolhapur. ఇదే వ్యాపారం సార్, అదిదా వ్యాపారం. నో క్వశ్చన్ మార్క్, నాకు కూడా తెలుదు. వాళ్ళు లాస్ట్ టైం మనం చెప్తున్నాం తెలిసి. No, when we are talking about famine conditions, it is the duty of the ruler to take measures to improve the conditions. అది చంద్రగుప్త మౌర్య కానివ్వండి, అమోఘ వర్ష కానివ్వండి, పిచ్చితుకులకు కానివ్వండి, కుంభ మేస్త్రి కానివ్వండి, అవి సమాజానికి ఇచ్చారు కాఫీ. అది చేయి ఇది చేయి అన్నప్పుడు వీ డోంట్ హ్యావ్ ఎనీ కైండ్ ఆఫ్. సో భద్రబాహు, Digambaras. Then how about North Indian Jains, who they were under control of Sthula Bahu. So those Jain monks are Jains along with Bhadrabahu who came down to Deccan. They got settled in a place called Shravana Belagula. మనం ఇందాక రెఫర్ చేశాం. The birthplace of Digambara sect of Jainism, Shravana Belagula, and the birthplace of Shvetamara sect of Jainism, Pataliputra. So two sects, right? Let me tell you, there is no religion which is free from schism. Every religion has schism. So ikkada Shvetamaras and Digambaras raskuntam. By the time you go to Buddhism, we have two sects. What were they? Hinayana Buddhism and Mahayana Buddhism. Apply the same towards Islam, apply the same towards Christianity, apply the same towards Hinduism. Whatever religion you talk about, you come across schism. And one more area you shall keep in mind when it comes to Sthula Bahu, or the Shvetambaras. Shvetambaras were responsible for organizing two Jain councils. In Buddhism, we found 4 Buddhist councils, right? 4 Buddhist councils, otherwise called as Sangitis. When it comes to Jainism, we found 2 councils. What for? To codify the so-called books, Jain literature, and to make Jainism, fit for future expansion kind of. So the first Jain council held at Patliputra under the guidance of Sthula Bahu. The second Jain council held at Vallabhi under the guidance of Devaratha Kshama Shramana. Now it was Gomateshwar. Now we have Chamundaraya. According to Jain tradition, right? According to Jain tradition, Rishabhnath, who was Rishabhnath? The first Tirthankar, traditional founder, right? According to Jain tradition, Rishabhnath had 2 sons, 1 daughter. One of the sons happened to be Bhadra Bahu or Bahubali. I'm not talking about Bhadra Bahu belonged to 3rd century BC. No, that Bhadra Bahu is different. This Bhadra Bahu is different. Bhadra Bahu or Bahubali. And another son, manaku avasram ledu, daughter vachesi manaku Brahmi, right? According to a tradition, since she invented the script, tradition, anavasram ledu, just oka idea pettukondi. According to tradition, since she invented the script is named after her. అయిపోయిందా సార్ కథలు చెప్పమని చెప్పారన్నమాట. సో Brahmi script, which was employed by Mauryan Ashoka in his inscriptions. Brahmi script. Now come to Bhadra Bahu or Bahubali. In order to get what we call a stage called Tirthankar, the Jain religion, the Jain text says, the Jain tradition says, you have to cross for about 4 stages. For about 4 stages, then you can reach to the Tirthankar. Sannyasa, Upadhyaya, Acharya, Arhant. Once you crosses Arhant, then the next step would be Tirthankar. Next step would be Tirthankar. Now the Jain tradition says, one even Jain traditions, just listen, right? The Jain tradition says, Gomateshwara or Bahubali or Bhadra Bahu, the son of Rishabhnath, he got struck at Arhat or Arhant. So he did not get the status called Tirthankar. So he got mentally disturbed and went to South India. It's quite interesting to know. అందరూ కూడా అంటే మనం ఈ రిలీజియస్ టెక్స్ట్ని అబ్జర్వ్ చేసినప్పుడు మెంటలీ డిస్టర్బ్ కానివ్వండి లేకుంటే పనిష్మెంట్ మొత్తం అందరినీ కూడా సౌత్కి తోలుతారు అన్నట్టు. ఈవెన్ ఇన్ సంస్క్రిట్ టెస్ట్ ద వన్ హూ హ్యాస్ కమిటెడ్ సమ్ సార్ట్ ఆఫ్ క్రైమ్ పనిష్మెంట్ ఏంటి సౌత్ ఇండియా పంపించమని చెప్పారు. ఎలాగైతే నేషనల్ మూమెంట్లో అండమాన్ నికోబార్ ఐలాండ్స్ ఇక్కడ ఏంటి ఎవరి స్క్రిప్ట్కి. And even today we found the gulf between north and south. Whenever you travel to Delhi, you'll be looked down. कहाँ से? हैदराबाद. हैदराबाद नहीं, मद्रासी అని చెప్తారు అన్నమాట. పుల్లలు పెట్టమాకు సార్ ఏం పెడతలేదు ఆల్రెడీ ఉన్నాయన్నమాట. So right from the beginning, the Sanskrit text where we found if someone has committed crime, if someone has committed, whatever you talk about, like, everyone sent to South India. Right? That is the reason when you observe in North Indian texts or Sanskrit texts, South Indians were referred as villains. అది మనకు సంస్కృత్ రామాయణం కానివ్వండి, సంస్కృత్ మహాభారతం కానివ్వండి. It was not digested by the Tamil scholars. There was a scholar by name Kamban, 12th century Tamil scholar. He wrote Ramayana, Kamban Ramayana, wherein South Indian happened to be hero, North Indian happened to be villain. The same character was given to Sita. Right? ఎలాగైతే మనకు నార్త్ ఇండియన్ రామాయణంలో రామ సీత విలన్ హ్యాపెన్ టు బి రావణ. రైట్. వెన్ ఇట్ కమ్స్ టు మనకు సౌత్ ఇండియన్ రామాయణంలో దట్ ఈస్ లైక్ కమ్మన్ రామాయణంలో రావణ హ్యాపెన్ టు బి హీరో, రామ హ్యాపెన్ టు బి విలన్. మా దగ్గర బుక్స్ లేవా, పెన్నులు లేవా, అడిషనల్ తీసుకోమని రాస్తామని చెప్పారు. రాశారు. ఆబ్వియస్లీ నువ్వు సక్కలు చూస్తే మేము ఎందుకు చూస్తాం? యూ స్టార్టెడ్ ప్రొజెక్టింగ్ అస్ విత్ బ్యాడ్ కలర్. మా దగ్గర కూడా ఏషియన్ పెయింట్స్ ఉంటాయని చెప్పారు అన్నమాట. Right. So intellectual conflicts, that is another story. So what I'm trying to tell you, it was, in fact, Karnataka is known for Jainism right from the beginning, even today. And one of the like ministers, Sarpine Pirutadi, minister Chamundaraya. Yes, Chamundaraya erected the tall monolithic Gomateshwar at a place called Shravana Belagola. So which of the following statements is oblique are applicable to Jain doctrine? The first statement, the surest way of annihilating karma is to practice penance. Is it correct? The surest way of annihilating karma is to practice penance. Is this correct? అసలు తపస్సు అనే కాన్సెప్ట్ జైనంలో ఉందా? కోరితే కుమస్థలం అనమాట, చచ్చిపోమన్నా సార్ కైండ్ ఆఫ్. సెకండ్ వన్, ఎవ్రీ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ ఈవెన్ ద స్మాలెస్ట్ పార్టికల్ హ్యాస్ ఎ సోల్. Yes. Karma is the bane of the soul and must be ended. Chapman. Yes. The right answer for this question 2 and 3 only. With reference to the history of ancient India, which of the following were common to Buddhism and Jainism? In fact, unless we refer Buddhism, which is unfair to discuss, फिर भी already మీకు idea ఉంది కాబట్టి we'll see how it goes, right? So the first one, I repeat the question, with reference to the history of ancient India, which of the following were common to both Buddhism and Jainism? Similarity you call it, right? So the first statement, avoidance of extremities of penance and enjoyment. In fact, Jainism, not Buddhism, right? Second statement, indifference to the authority of the Vedas. Yes, Jainism and Buddhism both opposed authority of Vedas, both opposed Sanskrit language, both opposed Sanskrit literature, both opposed Brahmanical domination, both opposed priestly class domination, and denial of efficacy of rituals. So 2 and 3 only. Next, Buddhism, right? So keeping aside the early life of Siddhartha Gautama, right? Mali early life of Siddhartha Gautama lo bhanga, you can focus on Pancha Maha Kalyanas, one of the patent areas, right? Pancha Maha Kalyanas, the 5 great events which are associated with the life of Buddha, right? Pancha Maha Kalyanas. Reason being, we found questions on match the following. The first event annappudu, that is Janana. The first event, Janana, symbolized with lotus. The second event, Mahabhinishkramana. Mahabhinishkramana symbolized with hearts. So it was in it was in at the age of 29. The traditional sources tell us Siddhartha Gautama witnessed so 3 famous events, right? And he got fed up with the life and the materialistic life, and in search of knowledge he had been to forest and all. So Mahabhinishkramana, the English version of Mahabhinishkramana, the second great event, you call it the English version of Mahabhinishkramana, great going ceremony. What for? For knowledge. Great going ceremony. First event is Janana, the birth. It was symbolized with lotus. The second event, Mahabhinishkramana, the English version, great going ceremony, symbolized with hearts. And the third one, even places kuda focus cheyandi. So Siddhartha Gautama was born at a place called Lumbini, modern Rumendehi district of Nepal. And Mahabhinishkramana annappudu manaku Kapila Vastu antam, in fact to which he belonged to the kingdom. Kapila Vastu, name of the place. The third one, Sambodhi, right? So after so many cinema kashtalu, he attained salvation antam, right? He attained salvation. Where did he attain salvation annappudu? Can anyone? Gaya or Bodh Gaya. Sambodhi. The English version of Sanskrit term Sambodhi, that is getting enlightenment. Siddhartha Gautamiki జ్ఞానోదయం కలిగింది అంటాం. And since then he was called as Buddha. Buddha, it's in Sanskrit term, the English version, enlightened one. Everyone gets enlightenment. One fine morning, వర్షం కురిసిన రాత్రి. రావడం కాస్త లేట్గా వచ్చాం కానీ రావడం మాత్రం పక్కారు. మనల్ని బ్లాక్ చేసినప్పుడు వెరీ సరీ సంవత్సరానికి ఇచ్చిన కాఫీ. Right. So Sambodhi, getting enlightenment, right? And the fourth one, Dharma Chakra Parivartana. So whatever the knowledge which he received through meditation, and he preached to his students at a place called Saranath. Manam indaka refer chesam, Saranath is a birthplace of Buddhism. Why Saranath to be considered as a birthplace of Buddhism? What is the reason? Yes, because the knowledge which he received through meditation, he taught to his students at a place called Saranath. And it was Saranath, the place where Buddhism formally what we call form. Andukane Saranath manamu birthplace ga consider chesam. Dharma Chakra Parivartana. So this particular event symbolized with wheel, which has got 8 spokes. Sir, manaki 8 spokes lo bhanga we found 2 opinions among the scholars. According to one opinion, since we have 8 directions, Gautam Buddha instructed his students to go to 8 directions to propagate the knowledge. Thereby 8 spokes. Another opinion says one of the what we call doctrines of Buddhism, besides Chatvani Arya Satyas, we have Ashtanga మార్గ. సరే, ambiguity ఎక్కడైతే ఉంటుందో యూపీఎస్సీ నెవర్ ఫోకసెస్ ఆన్ దిస్, రైట్? అండ్ చత్వాని ఆర్య సత్యాస్, ఎలాగైతే మనకు జైనంలో టూ ప్రిన్సిపల్స్ ఉన్నాయి, దట్ ఈస్ పంచసూత్రాస్ అండ్ త్రిరత్నాస్. In Jainism we found 2 major principles. Panchasutras, 4 principles of 23rd Tirthankar, 5th principle of Vardhaman Mahavir, Triratnas, exclusively associated with Mahavir, apply the same towards in Buddhism. So whatever the principles, whatever the philosophy of Gautam Buddha, broadly divided into 2 categories, that is Buddhism. That is, we have Chatvani Arya Satyas followed by Ashtanga Marga. ఈ డిమార్కేట్ చేసుకోవడం చదవండి, చాలా ఈజీ. ద ఓన్లీ థింగ్ ఈజ్ ఈ టెక్నికల్ టర్మ్స్ అహింస, అసత్య, అపరిగ్రహ 1-2 సార్లు మనం రివైజ్ చేసి వచ్చేస్తాం అనమాట. సో చత్వాని ఆర్య సత్యాస్, ద 4 Chatur, 4. Chatvani are satyas. That is like, dukkha, samuya, dukkha, nirodha, marga. Buddha says, the world is full of sorrows. Why annappudu? Because desires cause sorrows. If desires are being dismantled, sorrows can be prevented? He says, yes. How annappudu? He says, there is a path. The path is nothing but Ashtangama. Chala easy. That's the reason historians branded Gautam Buddha as a social doctor, pragmatic philosopher, unlike your Brahmin scholars. ఏది చెప్పినా కర్మ అంటారు, ఏది చెప్పినా ఆత్మ అంటారు, ప్రేతాత్మ అంటారు, ట్రాన్స్మైగ్రేషన్ ఆఫ్ సోల్, ఆత్మ టేక్స్ బర్త్. సార్ ఇవన్నీ వదిలిసానికి దండం పెడతాను చెప్పారు. ప్రాక్టికల్ ప్రాగ్మాటిక్ ఫిలాసఫర్. You have like say problems, you have sorrows, okay, then follow this, right? That is samyak kriya, samyak gnana, samyak eightfold path. అంటే సోషల్ డాక్టర్ ఎందుకంటామంటే జ్వరం వచ్చింటే అందరూ ఆయన దగ్గర పోయినారు, మొత్తం ఇట్లా నాడి పట్టుకొని 8 ట్యాబ్లెట్ ఇచ్చాడు, పొద్దుగాల 2 వేసుకో, మళ్ళీ మధ్యాహ్నం తగ్గకుంటే మొత్తం ఒకటేసారి వేసుకొని చెప్పినప్పుడు, రైట్. అష్టాంగ మార్గ, నోబుల్, దట్ ఈస్ లైక్ 8-fold path అంటాం. Like in Jainism, even we found Triratnas in Buddhism, right? But not principles, right? Jainism lo principles na. Samyak Gnana, Samyak Vishwas, Samyak Kriya. Where? In Jainism. But ikkada Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami and Sangam Sharanam Gacchami. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami and Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. You have to have great faith in Buddha. Sharanam. You have to surrender yourself to Buddha. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham, Dharmam. Dharmam is nothing but law, code of conduct, terms and conditions. If you want to be in Buddhism, you have to follow some rules and regulations. Dhammam, dharma, righteousness, and finally sangham. Buddhism to be considered as sangham. Sanghamu, like belonged to one particular group. Even మనం క్రైస్తవులు కూడా యూజ్ చేస్తున్నాం, బాబాయ్ సంఘానికి వెళ్ళేద్దాం, సంఘానికి వెళ్ళేస్తాం. సంఘం అంటే ఏంటంటే ఇట్స్ అన్ అసోసియేషన్, రైట్? అసోసియేషన్ ఆఫ్ అ గ్రూప్ ఆఫ్ పీపుల్, రైట్? సో ఇక్కడ మనం బుద్ధిస్ట్ అసోసియేషన్ మనం సంఘం అంటున్నాం, తెలిసి. సో బుద్ధం, ధమ్మం అండ్ సంఘం. వెన్ ఇట్ కమ్స్ టు ద fourth one ధర్మచక్ర పరివర్తన, fifth one వచ్చేసి మహాపరి నిర్వాణ. దట్ ఈస్ ద గ్రేట్ ఎగ్జిట్. యు మీన్ నారాయణ? ఎస్, ద గ్రేట్ ఎగ్జిట్. మనం లాస్ట్ క్లాస్ రిఫర్ చేసాం. బుద్ధ పాస్డ్ అవే ఎట్ ఎ ప్లేస్ కాల్డ్ కుషీనగర్. అండ్ మనకు సేక్రెడ్ లిటరేచర్, ఈ ఏరియాస్ మీద కూడా ఫోకస్ చేయండి. సేక్రెడ్ లిటరేచర్ ఏంటి? సేక్రెడ్ లిటరేచర్ అన్నప్పుడు కెన్ ఎనీవన్, ద జైన్ సేక్రెడ్ టెక్స్ట్స్ వర్ రిటన్ ఇన్ విచ్ లాంగ్వేజ్? చెప్పండి. ప్రాకృత్, ప్లీజ్. ప్రాకృత్, and to be specific, Ardhamagadi antam. When it comes to Buddhist literature, what is written in? That's it. Be good at it. Elagaithe manaku Vedic literature was written in? Vedic literature was written in Sanskrit. Jain literature was written in Prakrit. When I say Jain literature, for our convenience, the sacred texts. Pavitra Grandhalu antam. Sacred text. The sacred texts of Vedic religion was written in, or like Sanskrit. When it comes to Jain, Prakrit. When it comes to Buddhist, Pali. And we have 3 famous texts in Pali language. They are popularly called as 3 Pitakas. What were they? Sutta Pitaka. What is the content of Sutta Pitaka? Yes, Sutta, Sutralu. ప్రిన్సిపల్స్ అయిపోయింది. మీరు దాన్ని బైహార్ట్ చేయాల్సిన అవసరం లేదు. సుత్తా ఇస్ ఎ పాలీ టర్మ్, సంస్కృత్ వర్షన్ సూత్రాస్, మనం తెలుగులో సూత్రాలు అంటాం. ఇంగ్లీష్ వర్షన్ ప్రిన్సిపల్స్. వాట్ ఆర్ ద ప్రిన్సిపల్స్? చత్వాని ఆర్య సత్యాస్ అండ్ 8-fold path. Sutta Pitaka consisted of చత్వాని ఆర్య సత్యాస్ అండ్ అష్టాంగ మార్గ. దట్స్ ఇట్, అయిపోయింది. దాని మీద పిహెచ్ చేయాల్సిన అవసరం లేదు. దెన్ గో టు సెకండ్ వన్, వినయ పీఠక, వినయము, ఒబీడియన్స్, రూల్స్ అండ్ రెగ్యులేషన్స్, అదర్వైజ్ కాల్డ్ యాజ్ ధమ్మ. మనం ఇందాక రెఫర్ చేసాం బుద్ధం, ధమ్మం, సంఘం. వినయ పీఠక. If you want to be in Buddhism, you have to follow some rules and regulations. Whatever religion you follow, ఆ రిలీజియన్లో కొన్ని రూల్స్ అండ్ రెగ్యులేషన్స్ ఉంటాయి. యూ హ్యావ్ టు ఫాలో దెమ్. దాన్ని మనం వినయ పీఠక అంటున్నాం. అండ్ ఫాలోడ్ బై ద థర్డ్ అండ్ లాస్ట్ వన్, అభిధమ్మ పీఠక. Whatever the philosophical aspects which are not associated with, that is like, sutta, which are not associated with Vinaya, say composed here. The philosophical interpretation of first two Pitakas, Abhidhamma. Easy, right? Why Buddhism was so popular throughout ancient Annapuru? Because it was within the reach of common man. That's the only reason. Why Vedic religion successfully failed Annapuru? There were so many defects. Obviously, like the major defect happened to be language. Books were written in Sanskrit, philosophies were written in Sanskrit, but these philosophies to be interpreted by the priestly class to the people in their own ways. Outcome. So history taught us, unless the people understand what you are conveying them, keep in mind, you will be unsuccessful. అదొక రిలీజియస్ ఫిలాసఫీ కానివ్వండి, ఒక పొలిటికల్ ఫిలాసఫీ కానివ్వండి. Why did Jainism, Buddhism become like very popular? Because on one hand Jainism, on the other hand Buddhism, they preach the respective philosophies in the languages of masses. And you might have studied as part of national movement. But national movement lo bhanga, we have 3 phases. That is moderate phase, followed by extremist phase, followed by Gandhian phase. When we observe social base in moderate phase, 1885 to 1905, it confined to upper classes. Reason being, moderate leaders, mottam English batch anamata idi. Hey you bro, come here, sit here. You want to have coffee? E batch anattu. By the time you go to extremist phase, yes, the nationalism or social base came down to middle classes. Obviously, the credit goes to Trimurtis, political Trimurtis. Who are they? Lal, Bal, Pal, Aurobindo Ghosh even. Thereby we found 2 mass movements organized by Congress party under the guidance of extremist leaders. What were they? 2 mass movements organized by Congress party under the guidance of extremist leaders. What were they? Very good done. Vande Mataram movement of 1906-1908 and Home Rule movement of 1916-1918. Sare, a movements ne separate cheste, that is another story. Now come to Gandhian phase. Congress party organized 3 mass movements under the guidance of Gandhiji. What were they? Non-cooperation, civil disobedience and quit India. Now what was the fate of social base Annapuru? No fate. Social base went to the masses. The nationalism went to the masses. The national movement went to the masses. The credit goes to Gandhiji. So Gandhiji had the capacity to mobilize the masses. Because he used to preach whatever he wanted to convey, not in the language of upper classes, microscopic, but in the language of masses. Apply the same towards Jainism and Buddhism. We found so many questions in prelims, right? Which are the following reasons not to be considered as popularizing Jainism, Buddhism? Unless you have idea what were the reasons based on which the Jainism and Buddhism got popularized, you can easily answer such kind of questions. Right? So sacred texts, Sutta, Vinaya and Abhidhamma. And 3 Ratnas, Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. And when it comes to Buddhist Sangitis or councils, extremely factual information. మనం ఇందాక రెఫర్ చేసాం, జైనిజంలో 2 councils రాసుకున్నాం. So first council held at Patliputra second council held at Vallabhi. When it comes to Buddhist councils, we have totally 4 Buddhist councils. The first Buddhist council held at, can anyone? Rajagriha, organized by Ajata Shatru. What is the significance of first Buddhist council? What is the significance of first Buddhist council? 2 Pitakas were written, that is Sutta and Vinaya. That's it. ఎక్కడ జరిగింది ఎవరు ఆధ్వర్యంలో సిగ్నిఫికెన్స్ అయిపోయింది, ప్రతిదీ గుర్తుపెట్టుకోవాల్సిన అవసరం లేదు. నేను గో ఫర్ సెకండ్ వన్ వైశాలి బై Kalashoka. Vaishali and Kalashoka. Now we don't have any kind of significance, but we found some sort of differences between Buddhism, Buddhist monks. వాళ్ళని మనం ఏమంటామంటే వెస్టర్న్ మాంగ్స్ అంటాము, ఈస్టర్న్ మాంగ్స్ అంటాము. You mean Patyaparam? Yes. Everywhere you come across differences of opinions. The third Buddhist council held at Patliputra, organized by Mauryan Ashoka. What is the significance of third Buddhist council? The third and last Abhidhamma Pitaka was written. Right? And the significance of third Buddhist council, Mauryan Ashoka constituted missionaries. What for? To spread. చాలా జనరల్గా మీరు అర్థం చేసుకుంటూ వెళ్ళిపోవాలి. అండ్ ద ఫోర్త్ Buddhist council held at Kundalavana or Srinagar, Kashmir, organized by Kanishka. Outcome, Buddhism experienced schism. How Jainism experienced schism, Shvetambaras and Digambaras applied the same towards even Buddhism. We found 2 sects. What were they? Hinayana Buddhism and Mahayana Buddhism. And Kanishka belonged to which sect of Buddhism? Mahayana Buddhism. మళ్ళీ బౌద్ధం గురించి చదువుతున్నప్పుడు లేకుండా ఫ్యాక్చువల్ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ ఒక 2 ఫోకస్ చేయండి. సో టేక్ ఎన్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఆఫ్ అశోక గాట్ కన్వర్టెడ్ టు బుద్ధిజం విత్ ద హెల్ప్ ఆఫ్ కనిష్క గాట్ కన్వర్టెడ్ టు బుద్ధిజం విత్ ద హెల్ప్ ఆఫ్. అండ్ ఆబ్వియస్లీ బుద్ధిస్ట్ ప్రిన్సిపల్స్ ఏంటి మనం ఇందాక రెఫర్ చేసాం, అండ్ బుద్ధిస్ట్ కోర్ ఐడియాలజీ ఏంటి. డిడ్ బుద్ధ బిలీవ్ ఇన్ గాడ్? ఇఫ్ నాట్, వై? If yes, why? We call Buddha as an agnostic. The fundamental difference, agnostic. What does it mean to agnostic? మనం తెలుగులో ఆగ్నేయవాది అంటాం. చెప్పండి. ఓకే, ద వన్ హూ మెయింటైన్ సైలెన్స్. ఏదో క్వశ్చన్ అడిగితే సైలెంట్ ఉంటాడు అన్నట్టు. టైం అవుతుందని వెళ్ళిపోతాడు. ఇక ఆయన కాదే, నేను కూడా వెళ్ళిపోతాడు. నాకు కూడా ఉందే. agnostic का मतलब क्या होता है? Agnostic, good. Agnostic is nothing but the one who never makes a comment on God. If someone goes and asks, hey Buddha, do you believe in God? Don't comment. ఒక కూర్చొని చెప్తాడు అనమాట. అంటే గట్టి చెప్పాడు, నా పర్ఫార్మెన్స్ ఇది. మెల్ల కూర్చొని పొద్దుగాల ఏం తిన్నావు అని చెప్తాడు. అడిగిన దానికి ఆన్సర్ చెప్పాడు. మధ్యాహ్నం ఏం తింటావు అని చెప్తాడు. అడిగిన దానికి తప్ప మొత్తానికి ఆన్సర్ చెప్తాడు. అలాంటి వాళ్ళని చాలా పాష్గా మనం ఇంగ్లీష్లో అగ్నాస్టిక్ అంటాం. ఫస్ట్ నువ్వు చెప్పు సార్ ఆన్సర్. డిడ్ బుద్ధ బిలీవ్ ఇన్ గాడ్ ఆర్ నాట్? లెట్ మీ టెల్ యూ, బుద్ధ వాజ్ థీస్ట్. మళ్ళీ అగ్నాస్టిక్ అని చెప్తున్నాను. వెన్ ఐ సే బుద్ధ డిడ్ నాట్ మేక్ కామెంట్ ఆన్ గాడ్, అట్ ద సేమ్ టైమ్ బుద్ధ నెవర్ సేస్ దెర్ ఈస్ నో గాడ్. If he would have said there was no God, obviously we would have considered him as a theist. I repeat, Buddha was agnostic, at the same time Buddha was theist. That's it. Now come to Jainism. Right? If someone asks a question, then how about Jainism? Right from Rishabhnath to what we call 24 Tirthankar, they also believed in God. At the same time, they instructed whatever the gods in which you have faith, you can worship respective gods. Star mark, cheppana. Yes, below Tirthankar. For example, you have faith in Lord Shiva. Okay, worship. Okka nimisham. After Tirthankar. First Tirthankar. You shall worship first Tirthankar, followed by your gods and goddesses. That is the reason the custodians of Hindu religion, they did not focus on Jainism. They simply focused on Buddhism. Because we did not find similarities between Buddhism and Vedic religion, or Buddhism over a period of time, and Hindu religion. There are so many elements copied by Jainism from Hinduism. What for another to cope up with? It was not the case of Buddhism. That is the reason the custodians of Hindu religion, the selfish priestly class, they successfully dismantled Buddhism. They did not focus on Jainism. Because Jainism, cope up with the existing features of Hindu religion. So Hinayana Buddhism and Mahayana Buddhism, and chala easy concept, say, manaki Hinayana Buddhist, they worship Pancha Maha Kalyanas, that is the symbols no will worship Jesar, symbols no. When it comes to here, they worship Buddha in human form. And it was Mahayana Buddhism in India. Mahayana Buddhism was responsible for introducing idol worship. భారతదేశంలో విగ్రహారాధనను మొట్టమొదటిసారిగా మహాయానులు ప్రవేశపెట్టడం జరిగింది. And it was copied by Hinduism. Today you can't imagine Hinduism without idolatry. So Lord Buddha's image, it's a previous question of 2012. Lord Buddha's image is sometimes shown with the hand gestures called Bhumi Sparsha Mudra. It symbolizes. So first statement, Buddha's calling of the earth to watch over Mara and to prevent Mara from disturbing his meditation. In fact, the same stuff, the same episode you might have heard in Hindu mythological stories. Vishwamitrudu tapassu చేస్తుంటాడు, రంభా వాళ్ళ బ్యాచ్ మొత్తం వస్తుంది అన్నాడు, వాళ్ళ పర్ఫార్మెన్స్ వాళ్ళు చేస్తారు. ఆయన ఒక మాట చెప్తాడు, నాకు ప్రిలిమ్స్ గెట్ అవుట్ ఫ్రమ్ ది క్లాస్ అని చెప్తాడు. సేమ్ ఎపిసోడ్. అంటే మైథలాజికల్ ఎపిసోడ్స్ ఏవైతున్నాయో యూ కమ్ అక్రాస్ మోర్ ఆల్ ద సేమ్ ఎపిసోడ్స్. Second one, Buddha's calling of the earth to witness his purity and chastity despite the temptations of Mara. The third one, Buddha's reminder to his followers that they all arise from the earth and finally dissolve into the earth, and thus life is transitory. The fourth one, both the statements A and B are correct in this context. What's the right answer? What's the right answer? నా ముఖం మీరు, మీ ముఖం మేము, కుచ్ భీ నహీ ఆతా, కుచ్ స్పీకే తో ఆతా. వాట్స్ రైట్ ఆన్సర్? The right answer for this question, option 4, A and B are correct. A and B are correct. The two statements are correct. With reference to the history of ancient India, which of the following were common to Buddhism and Jainism? Ikkada common, indaka refer chestunnam. Yes. And finally, the last component of pre-Mauryan age, that is to be specific, ఈ philosophies లో భాగంగా షడ్ దర్శనాస్. మరి షడ్ దర్శనాస్లో మనకు మ్యాథ్స్ ద ఫాలోయింగ్ లో భాగంగా రావడం జరిగింది. సాంఖ్య ఫిలాసఫీ, ఇట్ వాస్ ప్రొపౌండెడ్ బై కపిల. Yoga philosophy, Patanjali. Nyaya philosophy, Gautama. Vaisheshika philosophy, Kannada Rishi. Purva Mimamsa, Jaimini, and followed by Uttara Mimamsa, otherwise called as Vedanta. On this particular philosophy, which was propounded by Badarayana. Badarayana evaraithe unnaro, he was influenced by Upanishads. In fact, another title of Upanishads otherwise called as Vedanta. అంటే వేదాలకు అంతంగా ఉండేవి. Shruti literature, we have 4 components in Shruti literature, right? The first component, 4 Vedas. Second component, Brahmanas. Third component, Aranyakas. And fourth component, Upanishads. Why Upanishads otherwise called as Vedantas? Because they are at the end of the Vedas. What is the content of Upanishads? They talk about philosophical aspects. If someone says philosophies, nu Vedantam cheppoddu ani cheptam. Enduku Vedantam ante ఏదైతే అర్థం కాదో దాన్నే వేదాంతం అంటాం. ఓకే, నాకు అర్థం, మీకు అర్థం కాదు. చలో, కోయి బాత్ नहीं. Right. So with this we'll have a pause. In the next class we'll continue. That is Mauryan age. So next chapter, Mauryan age, post-Mauryan age and Guptan age. Tomorrow we are going to learn 3 chapters. Please do attend the class with prior preparation. Right. ఎక్కడైతే క్లమ్జీగా అనిపిస్తుందో you just to get those doubts, we'll clarify the sessions. So we'll have a pause. We'll continue the next class.